Shabbat Shalom. It's a wonderful, beautiful night this Shabbat, and we all have the privilege of sharing a really special moment and a special celebration, whether you knew about it before you came or didn't. You're in store for a really nice treat. So I'll kind of tell a little bit of the backstory, at least from my perspective. So I guess a few years ago, Bear Robinson started coming around to CRC, and one of those people in our community that, before you know it, is everywhere, at every program, at every class, and at every service, and quickly, just became part of, as we say, the heart and soul of the community. And a little bit later than that, Phil Stephenson came to CRC, and really the same thing, very much like everywhere you looked, there was Phil volunteering and lending a hand and being part of the core of our community, of our CRC community. So it's not surprising that Phil and Bear became friends, because they were always here. and soon, of course, a chevra, a community of people, many of whom, it's hard on Friday night to look at those last couple of rows and I know who's going to be there, right? It's a wonderful thing. So just to find a place. And so this summer, different Fridays. First Phil, and then Bear went into the mikvah, the mikvah of St. Louis, after all of their studies and all of their participation and all of their learning, both on their own time and speed, decided it was time to officially convert, to become part of the Jewish people, which the mikvah is kind of, in some ways, the culmination of that journey. And then what the next steps is what we're all about to witness as we all journey together in this community into 77, a holy year with all of those sevens. So part of what we do at CRC, and Karen, we're excited for your teaching as well, because you also were in the mikveh this summer. So we're really in for lots of learning. But this is so it made a lot of sense that this was the Friday night that both Phil and Bear are going to give their teachings, and we're going to celebrate their conversion. So the mikveh is kind of an intimate kind of a moment, just a small group of people. But it's also really a mitzvah to share that occasion with community. And certainly on a Friday night community, which Phil and Bear are so much a part of. And so we're going to hear their teachings, and we're going to officially welcome them as their friends and their synagogue and as the Jewish people, as part of Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. So I think we'll have, did you guys decide who was going to teach first? Or can I decide? Phil. So I want to introduce Phil in the right way. Phil will still be Phil, his everyday name, but he also, as part of going into the mikvah and becoming Jewish, also took on a Hebrew name, and he took on a wonderful Hebrew name of Shlomo Yisrael. And I just want to say one thing about. Are you going to talk about your name in your teaching? Can I just mention? This is one of the first things we talked about when we talked about Phil's Hebrew name, and he picked the name Shlomo Solomon, right, who built the temple in Jerusalem in the Book of Kings, in honor of your dad, yours and Mike's dad, because Phil's brother Mike is here, pre-converted by about 30 years. Mike's been Jewish for 30 years and now joined by his brother Phil, but because your father was a mason, and so because of the connection of Solomon building the temple and the masonry and the builders, so again, this notion that yes, this is a transformative moment, and I think both you and Bear had transformative experiences in the mikvah, but it's not starting from scratch. Everything that you are and everything that the two of you represent and all of your experiences come into this moment of being Jewish too, and that's one of the reasons we're so thrilled when people become Jewish, because they bring who they are to us. And so Shlomo Israel is here to teach us some Torah.
Very good. Thank you, Rabbi Randy, and thank you for your indulgence, congregation. We find in the Parsha this week a familiar scene when Moses convenes a meeting of the people. And it's not just elders or important people, but it's all the people. It's a very important meeting, and I think it fulfills God's promise to people in the past, the people present, the people in the future, all of you, Brother Bear and I, and people yet to be born, to enter into a covenant. And a covenant is a very compelling thing, a very weighty thing. And it's a very simple thing. God asks that you believe that he is the one and only God and that you honor his commandments. But he gives you free choice. You can choose not to do that. And there are consequences either way. If you follow his commitments and commandments, you'll be blessed and all will be good. And if you don't, not so hot. But he does give you some prospect for redemption. So he's a forgiving God. So if you authentically redeem yourself, then you can become part of the tribe again. Now, I think this is very compelling. It's interesting that a promise was made to people in the past, all the way through the future to people yet unborn. A promise of blessings and other promises. And it's always been about a journey. And that resonates well with us going through conversion, because we've been on a journey as well. Long ago, we had very good parents, my brother and I, and they introduced us to a religion that never really resonated with us, I think. And I really didn't have a high opinion of religion in general. But I did always have a firm belief in God. And I didn't think there was any reason there wouldn't be a God. I thought that God exists and there was one God, and how he manifested himself was a mystery to me and probably everyone else. Was it nature? Was it physics? Was it mathematics? Whatever it was, there was one being, one supreme being, that made order out of everything. And even though I couldn't explain it, you had to admit or be present to that influence. And in essence, I think I know now that I was living spiritually the Shema before I knew that's what it was called. And so it's kind of a breakthrough to come to that conclusion. Now, at some point, I thought it would be good to become a Jew, because Brother Mike had become a Jew, and he had good friends, and Mike was always smarter than I. So that's a good tell, I think. And so it was an idea that lay dormant in my mind for many years. And then, but it was something I always thought, I should do that. I should do that. That's something I should do. There's a void. There's something missing. But life fills you with schmutz and busyness and whatever. And so I didn't get around to that. But a sequence of events found me living walking distance from here. And I became aware of CRC, actually through Facebook to a large extent. And the thing that impressed me most was the involvement of this congregation in the community. So you were actually doing things to improve the community and improve life for people. And in my estimation, with no expectation in mind. You didn't feed people or clothe people after they went to Torah study. You gave that willingly without any expectation for a favor in return. And that's the true meaning of giving in my mind, in estimation. So I thought, this is a group that I'd like to be associated with, and maybe this sounds a sign from God that I should become a Jew and be part of this group. So I did come and make contact with the rabbis. And that's kind of in your face if you're like where I'm coming from, because I'm not religious. And I have no expectation. I don't know what it's going to take to be a Jew. I'm thinking maybe I'm going to get Latkes 101, maybe calibrating, and maybe, the better shtick from Woody Allen and Mel Brooks. But indeed, they outlined a course for me, essentially that said I should become involved with the community. I should take the Introduction to Judaism course, learn some Hebrew, and go to Torah study weekly. And you know, that all sounded good. It all sounded good, but the Torah study thing sounded like, whoa, that sounds like the less fun part of this. I'm not sure about this. So I came to Torah study. And I got to tell you, if you haven't been to Torah study, you're missing a lot. Because I find that one of the most rewarding aspects of my Jewish teaching so far. And we have really good intellectual discussions, excellent rabbis or teachers, and I try not ever to miss it, although business travel takes me all over the place. I always like to go to Torah study. So that was back in January of 2015. So my journey kind of concluded on August the 19th when I had the mikvah. And so now I stand before you, Jew. Now it's interesting. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the people that made this possible. This is Rabbi Susan, Rabbi Dina, Rabbi Randy, Rabbi Dale, and certainly all the rabbis and teachers of Torah. My Torah students in general, and the congregation at large that's made me feel welcome, accepted me, and made me feel like part of the group. And that was a dimension that I had studied and read about as a part of Judaism, the sense of community. But I don't think you understand that when you read it. You only really get a sense of that when you become part of the group. And so that's really gratifying, and I appreciate that. It means a lot. Like I said, I didn't have that expectation, and that's a hidden reward to a large extent. But to sum this up, essentially, I stand before you, a newly minted Jew. I've got a T-shirt at home. And I'll show you that one weekend. But I'm grateful to God and to this congregation and all that made this possible. Thank you very much.
I was told these baskets that represent, come on over, that represent donations to the Jewish Food Pantry are here for Rosh Hashanah, but they're also here in honor of the two of you and your journey. So there you go. What I'd like to do is give you each a Torah. Well, actually, it's yours. We'll hold it for you. I won't talk long. So, Shlomo Yisrael and Midbar Rachamim. What this portion says is that you stand here, and both of you so beautifully told us what that means to stand. But now we're standing for you as you stand with us. And as it says, as you said, it's everyone that's here, your friends, your congregation, but it's even people that aren't here. It's people that are in synagogues all over the world. It's people that are in all of their places. It's even people that haven't been born yet. It's all the ancestors, Bear, that you talked about. We're all standing here, witnesses to this moment. Not just people, but all creation, all of the two-leggeds and four-leggeds and, all of the creatures of the earth, and, of course, witnessed by the earth and the sky and all directions. We all stand here in this momentous moment. So I thought what we would do is sort of recreate a little bit of that mikveh moment without the water. But I do think both of you told me that you still sort of feel that water on you. It's still part of you. So two things that we did when you immersed, each of you at your own time, into the waters of the mikveh is that you both when you came up, you sang the Shema. After your second dunk and at the third dunk, you came up and sang Shehechianu. So how about as a community, we do that. Another chance to sing the Shema with the Torahs and with Phil and Bear. I have to ask each of you that you take this on. You take on becoming a member of the Jewish people willingly and without coercion. So true and true. And what we say to you is, as much as you've received, and you talked about it so beautifully, you've received Torah and Judaism and a community, we have received. We have received and we continue to receive your gifts. And the Jewish people is a better people because each of you has taken us on as family, as your faith, as your tradition. So having heard all of that and experienced all of these words and feelings and experiences, let us, with Phil and Bear, with Shlomo Yisrael and Midbar Rachamim, sing the Shema, which reminds us that we are all standing here as one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shamo. And for this moment of celebration, another Shehechianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Blessed is the Holy One whose presence fills creation. You gave us our life, and you kept us alive, and you enabled us to reach this moment of celebrating your conversion and your entrance into the people of Israel, the Jewish people. And let us say amen. Amen. And how about a little mazel tov? 1, 2, 3.